Hello and welcome to my Woolly PhD. My name's Liz Scuff and this is a weekly vlog about what I'm learning and making in my anthropology PhD all about wool here in Iceland. And so if you're new to the channel, you can find an overview of the project in the introductory video. Otherwise, let's dive in. This week, I don't have a paper that I want to recommend. But what I've been thinking about is about what hands know. One of the things that got me thinking about it was eggs, which is a long way from wool, right? But I'm here doing some work on a farm, and one of the things, sometimes I'm handling eggs, chicken eggs, and as soon as you pick up an egg that's got a thin shell, I can feel it. Right? This is not some like master skill. Most people who've, reached a certain age and cooked enough, you can tell when an egg is kind of thin, when the shell is thin, kind of compared to when it's not. But when I've been thinking about it a lot because I was like, how on earth do I know? Because I don't feel like I'm squeezing them differently. And of course they're both still hard. I won't be able to push as hard on this one as this one, and I don't want to break the egg mid-video. I'm going to be careful with them. But it just got me thinking about hands and pressure and texture and how I know that is a thinner shell than the other one, but I don't know how I know, and I could not describe it. Like, I've been thinking about how would I describe it to somebody, how you can tell, and I really have no idea. And I'm not sure, again, I'm not going to change my project topic to work out how, but it just really made me think a lot more about what our hands know that we don't have any other way of knowing, in a sense, and certainly of our own perception. Of course, you could put this on some kind of machine, great science thing, and it would be able to measure shell thickness with some kind of, radio waves or something, right? Obviously not my area. But there's just some things that we as a sensing body don't know other than through senses in a way that is like hard, if not impossible, to put into language. That's probably why touch-based research in anthropology, why there's not so much of it, because I do keep thinking, gee, it's difficult actually to research about touch and then translate and communicate that into words. Anyway, I'm a month into my field work. I don't have to know how to do it yet, but I'm thinking a lot about what hands know. The other thing I wanted to, this is related, but there's a little bit of a backstory first. That's kind of had me thinking about this, right? So I went to the Textile Museum of Iceland in the north of Iceland in a town called Blönduós yesterday, and I have to say it's amazing. If you're a textile person and you're in this part of the world, you should pop over. It's excellent. But two things to mention. One is like a slight side tangent. If you're watching a few episodes ago, you would have seen me sharing this book, Icelandic Mittens by Gudrun Hanel Hentinen. I'm saying it wrong, but Icelandic Mittens, that's what it's called. And I can't show you the book because at the moment it's propping up my camera. I didn't think through that one. But basically what she did is she studied these mittens in the Textile Museum. They're very old mittens, and she translated them into contemporary patterns for knitting with fingering weight yarn. And anyway, so I got to the Textile Museum and I got to see all the mittens in the museum that are in the book. And it was so cool. They're so beautiful and really well preserved, and just made me want to knit all the mittens even more than I already do. So that was a highlight. That was a tangent. Back on track though. One of the permanent exhibitions there, it's called the Huldaband. I'm not saying it right, but anyway. And from the website they say it's dedicated to the life and work of the remarkable woman Halldóra Bjarnadóttir, who lived 1873 to 1981. And Halldóra was best known for her pioneering work in the education and culture of women and the promotion of home industries in the last century. And yeah, if you want to read more about that, and I super recommend it, you can go to the Textile Museum of Iceland website And yeah, check it out. But anyway, towards the end of her life, she donated her final belongings to the museum. And so there's a room that's kind of set up like maybe her bedroom office thing, and with her spinning wheel and the desk that she used to do a lot of correspondence. And anyway, it's very touching, actually, as a way to sort of honour her work. But one of the things that they had many things that she'd made on display. One of the things was this example of some cloth that she'd woven, and it is the finest cloth ever made from Icelandic wool. And so she spun the yarn herself by hand to then weave it. And I don't weave, but I've looked at weaving looms and things, and I cannot get my head around how much yarn that is. Anyway, so it's quite a complex, or somewhat complex, sort of checked pattern in these beautiful browns. And I kid you not, it's like finer than, like, I don't know, cotton sheets. Right, like it might be half the thickness. I've seen thicker paper. You don't get to touch it, but you can see it because it's put up on this a sheet of paper, and then there's some in a tray that you can look at. You can just see it's super, super fine. And I asked a wool expert here how many fibres thick she thought the yarn was, and she thought maybe 3 or 4 fibres. I can't get my head around, first the spinning of something so fine, but then all the handling of that yarn to then string up the loom and then even weave it. Like, it really just got me thinking, similar to the eggs, about what hands know and can do. And things that can only be, that it's beyond description, it's beyond teaching. It's something you just have to do with your body a lot to get that good at it. And even then, not everyone will be able to. Like, I'm thinking Halldóra must have had incredible eyesight for such fine work, but also incredible tactile perception that maybe, or obviously she would have learned as a skill over a lifetime. But not everybody will, because we could all, we're all going to have tendencies to different skill sets. But I was just thinking about that, like the ends of her fingers and what they knew and could do that was possibly beyond her capacity, or anyone's capacity, to describe. Anyway, yeah, if you're over this way, check it out. It's the most incredible cloth. So yeah. Maybe it's fitting that there's no article today, because, again, I'm just thinking about the skills of hands that are beyond language. Anyway, so I don't know if I'm learning much about that this week, but I'm thinking a lot about it. And thinking a lot about, as I also am kind of learning to mill wool, and noticing when I'm sort of shown a new thing, like I can't do it and my hands are clumsy, and I see the person teaching me, their hands are just like do, and it's so easy, and I'm just like, and it's not. But then how quickly, like by the end of a day, or end of like an hour of trying to do the thing, it's like, oh, I'm starting to get it, and then starting to get it some more, and then a few days later, it's becoming more automatic. And just how quickly my hands and body are learning some things. But then what does that mean if you've been and then what happens after you've been doing it for several years? Like, you're beyond the initial learning curve, steep learning curve, and then something else starts happening. So anyway, I know it's a bit of a ramble, but I'm thinking a lot about hands, what hands can do, how hands learn, and what feels at the moment like an impossible task about how to describe that. Anyway, so that's what I'm thinking about this week. What have I been making? Well, it's been exciting. So last week I said I was swatching for the Fern and Feather sweater by Jennifer Steingass, but I changed my mind. And now I'm knitting the Benjamina sweater by Maria at Faker Knitting. Now that's Feykir. Now this pattern isn't on Ravelry or on a website, so you're going to have to do a bit of extra legwork if you want to check it out and maybe knit along. You can find her on Facebook. So Faker Knitting, so Feykir. She has some lovely patterns, right? And you email her, she tells you how much the pattern is, you pay by PayPal, and then she sends it to you, right? but I think, I don't know if they're all in Icelandic, but the Benjamina is in Icelandic. But Google does a good enough job of translating it if you know more or less how to knit a sweater, a yoked sweater. Even if you don't, I actually think Google Translate did a relatively good job, but it's hard to tell because I know I've done them before and I almost just need the pattern. Oh no, that's not true. I really need the sizing as well. So I am taking a bit of a gamble because I'm knitting with a yarn that's a bit thinner than I think, and I'm also knitting, so I'm knitting down needle size. So I've gone up a sweater size. I think it could fit. It might be figure hugging. We'll see, or it might end up being for somebody else. But I do love it. This is where I'm up to. I've just done the ribbing, and I don't know, about the 5th row of the colour work. And this is a bottom up sweater again. And I am knitting this in this, oh my goodness, can you see this grey? Oh, there we go. It's so stunning. This is a beautiful grey in the Huldaband yarn from Uppspuni Mini Mill, and another one in the dark, it's almost black, dark chocolatey brown. Yeah, so I'm knitting it in those, and they're lovely. They're super soft. Don't let anybody tell you Icelandic wool is scratchy. It's not. Probably have to go and say that every single episode, but anyway, that's lovely. And something I have been, I've bought a bit more yarn this last week, and including this incredible sock yarn. It's called Dvergasokkar, and Dverga is the dwarves, I think. It says the dwarves tread for gold digging in woolen socks. So, and actually this is really cute packaging. I love the packaging. It's actually 2 balls sort of tied together, and then this goes around the middle like a belt. And I couldn't resist them. They're so lovely. And the squishiness of them. Anyway, I'm going to knit my father-in-law some socks for Christmas with these. And that's my next cast on. And I suspect I'm going to cast it on any moment now because I keep looking at it, just really wanting to knit with it, even though I've got a sweater to work on. But you know, it'll be a smaller thing to carry around, so maybe I will do that. So that's what I'm making this week. I'll probably be a few weeks on that sweater. Yeah, I think that's it for this week. Yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you're also having some knitting fun or some other woolly wool craft fun of some kind, or also marveling at what your hands know that you can't describe either. I think that's a fun thing to think about. Okay, I'll see you next week. Bye.